Welcome to Emotions and Stories. Today we're going to talk about fear, something which is a constant companion for all of us. The name of the story is The Weight of Fear. Rahul was known as the idea man in his office. His creativity and innovative approaches had earned him accolades, promotions, and the admiration of his colleagues. But when his manager entrusted him with the company's most significant project yet, $1 million pitch for a prestigious client, Rahul for the first time felt an unfamiliar pang of dread. What if I mess up? He wondered. The question circling his mind like a vulture. His initial excitement soon gave way to an overwhelming fear of failure. And as the weeks rolled by, this fear began to seep into every corner of his life, leaving behind chaos and self doubt. Initially, Rahul tried to mask his anxiety with a flurry of activity. He spent hours brainstorming, sketching ideas, and poring over data. He barely slept, surviving on caffeine and adrenaline. But the fear of losing the project loomed over him like a shadow. It became his constant companion, whispering insidious doubts into his ear. Your ideas aren't good enough. They'll laugh you out of the room. You'll ruin your reputation. It felt as if there was somebody constantly walking with him and whispering these statements into his ears. His confidence slowly started to sap away. Even when he came up with promising ideas, he second guessed himself endlessly. Presentations were rewritten, plans were scrapped, and deadlines loomed larger with each passing day. His colleagues noticed the change. Are you okay, Rahul? His teammate Anjali asked one afternoon. You've been looking too stressed. Just busy, he replied curtly, brushing her off. He didn't want to admit that he was paralyzed by the fear of failure, as if admitting it would make it real. As the project progressed, Rahul's fear began to manifest in his work. He became overly cautious, refusing to commit to decisions. Meetings stretched longer as he debated every minor detail, much to the frustration of his team. We need to finalize this by tomorrow, Rahul, Anjali said during one meeting, her tone sharper than usual. We can't just keep delaying all this. I know, Rahul said, running a hand through his hair. But what if the client doesn't like it? What if it's too risky? Come on, Rahul. Any project involves risk, Anjali replied, exasperated. We can't plan for every scenario. But Rahul couldn't shake the fear that one wrong move would cost them the project. His indecisions created bottlenecks and his team's morale began to dip. Rahul's fear didn't just affect his work, it began to bleed into his personal life as well. At home, his wife Priya grew concerned about his late nights and distant demeanor. You barely hear Rahul, she said one evening as he stared blankly at his laptop. Even when you're home, it's like you're not really with us. I'm doing this for us, he snapped, immediately regretting his tone. This project could change everything, Priya. But at what cost, Rahul? Priya asked softly. You're so consumed by this fear of failing that you're not even living. Her words hit Rahul hard, but he couldn't bring himself to admit she was right. Instead, he withdrew further, avoiding conversations and burying himself in work. As the project deadline approached, Rahul's fear reached a fever pitch. His team, exhausted by his micromanagement and constant revisions, began to push back. Rahul, this isn't working, Anjali said bluntly during a team meeting. We're running out of time and we're all burnt out. You have to trust us. I do trust you, Rahul said defensively. I'm just trying to make sure everything's perfect. Well, then we're working on the wrong goal because perfection isn't the goal, Anjali said. Delivering something is, na Rahul. Rahul wanted to believe her, but the fear of disappointing everyone, his team, his boss, the client, was becoming something too big, too huge for him. That evening, alone in his office, he stared at the half-finished presentation on his screen, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. The day of the presentation arrived and Rahul felt like he was walking to his execution. His hands trembled as he clicked through the slides, his voice faltering as he explained the concept. The client's polite but indifferent expressions told him everything he needed to know. When the meeting ended, Rahul's boss pulled him aside. Rahul, you've always been one of our best, she said gently. But I have to be honest. This wasn't your best work. It felt disjointed, like there was no clear vision. Rahul silently kept staring at the carpet, nodding numbly. He wanted to explain, to tell her about the fear that had paralyzed him, but the words wouldn't come. The team did not win the project, and Rahul's worst fear had come true. In the weeks that followed, Rahul sank into a deep slump. He avoided his colleagues, feeling like he had let everyone down. The guilt and shame was suffocating. At home, Priya tried to reach out, but Rahul's wall of silence was too thick. You need to talk to somebody, she said finally one night. A therapist, a mentor, anyone. Rahul, you can't keep carrying this alone. Reluctantly, Rahul agreed. He began seeing a therapist who helped him unpack the fear that had derailed him. Through their sessions, he realized that his fear of losing the project wasn't about the project. It was about his identity. He had tied his self-worth so tightly to his success at work that failure felt like losing a part of him. You're not your achievements, Rahul, the therapist reminded him. Failure doesn't define you, but how you respond to it definitely does. With time and support, Rahul began to rebuild his self-confidence. He reconnected with his team, apologizing for how his fear affected their work. To his surprise, they were more understanding than he expected. We've all been there, Rahul, Anjali said. You just need to trust us and yourself more the next time. At home, Rahul worked to repair his relationship with Priya. He started setting boundaries with work, carving out time for family and self-care. Slowly, the weight of his fear began to lift. A few months later, when another big project came his way, Rahul still felt a flicker of anxiety. But this time, he approached it differently. He leaned on his team, shared the workload, and reminded himself that no project was worth sacrificing his mental health or relationships. This new project was a success, but what mattered more to Rahul was how he felt during the entire process. calm, focused, and in control. The fear hadn't disappeared, but it no longer controlled him. Looking back, Rahul realized that his fear of losing the earlier project had taught him an invaluable lesson. A lesson which he will carry with him. Failure isn't the end. It is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to rebuild. And sometimes it's the fear of failing, not the fear itself, that causes the most damage. With this newfound perspective, Rahul faced the future with a lighter heart, ready to take on challenges, not because he had become fearless, but because he had learned how to move forward despite his fear. I think today's story is a reminder for all of us that most of the time it is the fear of failure which stops us. But if we just accept that not everything is going to be a success, not everything can be predicted or controlled, it'll be easier to move forward. I hope you enjoyed today's story and learned something from Rahul. If you did, do like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thank you.